This is the Galactus construction figure set, which sees the Fantastic Four take their first steps into the LEGO world.
Say that again?
And along with him, I've also bought these promising looking sets which just released on August 1st, bringing to life more iconic Marvel movie moments. Today we'll be building all of these up to take a look at the great, the good and the not so great, and see if they're really worth the price. So first of all, we've got this 203 piece Iron Man and War Machine vs Hammer Drone set, which for £18 in the UK and $23 in the US gives you these buildable Hammer Drones and two minifigures, neither of which are new or exclusive. First of all, we've got Iron Man in his Mark 6 armor, who gets these lightsaber blades used to represent the laser attack he used in the movie, which I think is a simple but really great use of pieces. Overall, I really like the design of the suit, the printing is really well done, I'm just not a big fan of the helmet. It's nothing wrong with this minifigure in particular, I just much prefer the older helmets with the textured details for things like the mouth and eyes rather than having it all printed. It just felt a lot closer to how these Iron Man suits actually looked in the movie. War Machine Mark 1 is also really good. I love the leg and torso print, which is packed full of detail, and the stud shooter for his shoulder cannon, while looking a bit big and clunky, does mean that he can actually fire projectiles. Again, the only thing dragging this one down is that helmet design, sadly. The builds for the drones are pretty much identical, save for their colour schemes and weaponry. The sand green drone gets this big bulky cannon over its left shoulder to fire spring-loaded missiles, while the sand blue drone gets these two shoulder cannons to shoot flick-fire missiles at the heroes. Now, just getting straight to the point, these drones are far too big. I mean, these are supposed to be equal in size to Iron Man and Rhodey, and yet they're taller than both of them combined. The proportions are also just a bit weird. The legs are fine and even get a decent amount of movement to pose them around, but the body just feels a bit too tall and thin, while the stubby arms just hang awkwardly at the side. I do like the heads though, which have got an exclusive new printed tile piece. If I ignore that these are supposed to be hammer drones from Iron Man 2, I don't find them to be that bad. They're actually quite fun to pose around with, but for what this set is supposed to be, yeah, they just really don't work for a minifigure based battle pack. Comparing this to the Iron Legion set from last year, and it's just night and day. That one was $3 cheaper for the US, yet it had 4 new minifigures, 2 of which were initially exclusive, and despite having fewer pieces, the build was just so much better. It feels like a proper battle pack, whereas this just doesn't. All in all, a 5 out of 10. It's a cool idea for an Iron Man 2 set, and getting these minifigures together for a relatively cheap price is great since I'd never personally gotten them before, but yeah, this was a real missed opportunity to just make a proper battle pack with 2 new Hammer Drone minifigures. Jumping from Iron Man 2 to Avengers Endgame, the next set to look at is the 373 piece Thor vs Chitauri. For £45 in the UK and $55 in the US, this comes together to build up the Mark II Iron Patriot and a bunch of builds for the Chitauri, but you only get one leg print. The Chitauri minifigures are nothing special, it's the 2021 Infinity Saga design, but I love that we get 4 of them in here. It's great for army building, and it's just a pretty good minifigure anyway. 2 of them get these speeder builds to ride around on, which are identical and just feature some stud shooters as weaponry, while the other 2 get stud shooters of their own and can grab hold of these chains to drag around this Chitauri gorilla. This thing is a really fun build. It can stand upright on the back 2 legs with no problem, freeing up those giant hands at the front to attack the heroes with huge claws that can actually grab hold of minifigures super easily. The head also gets a printed piece to give it details for its eyes, while a big sticker is used on the back as well, with some studs for a Chitauri to hitch a ride on top. As for Iron Patriot Mark II, the printing is really well detailed, and I'll admit, the newer mask design does work well for this one, much better than the ones we saw in the Iron Man set. He is missing a lot of bulk though, but that's because he gets this big exosuit build to sit in. This is really bulky and funnily enough is perfectly scaled to fight those hammer drones, and more importantly is a similar size to the Chitauri gorilla that it's fighting in this set. Just like that, it makes use of lots of mixel joints, giving it a wide range of articulation in the legs and arms with a rotating torso as well. The sticker details are appropriate, and this thing is armed with stud shooters on both arms as well as at the shoulders too, giving it a lot of firepower. Is it too big for minifigure scale? Yeah, definitely. LEGO really just needs to give Rhodey that Paz Vista armor and he's perfectly bulked up as it is. But I do still like how this has turned out. It's a good little Iron Patriot mech and even has room for Rocket to sit on the shoulder. Now, Rocket is newish. In fact, it's actually just the exact same print as his previous Endgame minifigure, but on a dark blue torso instead of the grey one. And to be honest, I kind of preferred that older minifigure. I just don't think he was all that in need of updating. And then finally there's a small terrain build which has some flames flickering, grey crates stuck in the rocks, and a small orange portal, but no Ant-Man microfigure to jump through it. This is just here as a place to stick Thor on top of this blue energy piece and then connect it to whatever other set you want, with the intention obviously being that terrible portal set from earlier in the year. Thor isn't the greatest minifigure. The lightning powered torso is a new print I think, but this minifigure really shows the limitations of the new rubbery cape pieces because that hair just doesn't work for Endgame Thor, but the one they were using beforehand just doesn't work with the new cape piece. Give him a fabric cape and this old hair piece and he's a much better minifigure. Stormbreaker also gets a new design with lightning energy coming out of it. So all in all, this set is basically a really good $20 Chitauri battle pack with a decent $15 Iron Patriot mech and then a $5 Thor polybag all thrown together, which makes for a not too bad 6 out of 10 $40 set. $55 though is really asking too much. But if they'd used a better Thor, reused the old Rocket and then threw in a Professor Hulk big fig, it might have been a different story. Now jump into the biggest set with Galactus, who was released a little earlier in the year on June 1st. For £55 in the UK and $60 in the US, Galactus is the only build in the set, using the same construction style as the newer Marvel figures like Wolverine and the top half of Sandman, and I really love how he's turned out. Galactus towers over other characters like Surtur from last year and the original Giant Man from 2016, making him a perfect addition to the Marvel minifigure scale world, even if he is still much smaller than his movie counterpart when you compare him to buildings. And what's more, because of all the ball and ratchet joint pieces, he's got so much more articulation than if he were done in the style of one of those upscale minifigures. The rigid pieces for his big skirt thankfully don't restrict his legs too much, as they can move out of the way, allowing you to easily move the legs around and pose him however you like, though they can look a little bit awkward when they're stuck out to the side. The torso also rotates a full 360 degrees with shoulder, elbow, wrist and finger articulation on top of that, with his big head also sitting on a ball joint, so it too can look around side to side and even up and down as well. All of this articulation adds up to make Galactus a really dynamic figure with lots of great options to play around with him and display him. This style of figure was definitely the right choice to bring the Devourer of Worlds to life in LEGO form. But even beyond the articulation, he just looks good. The dark blue and magenta colour scheme instantly gets across the idea that this is Galactus. It's really vibrant, and aside from some awkward grey spots here and there, it's also really consistent, with lots of slope pieces adding texture in different places too. There are some stickers on his arms and torso, and the skirt pieces, which were a bit of a pain to get on, but thankfully the head is printed, and it's a really good print. He's very nonchalant, which is perfect, and it's also done in the same style as the original Giant Man figure's head, rather than using one of those newer special mold pieces that the other construction figures have. It's basically an upscale minifigure head, so if you prefer that building system, you can integrate this into one of those types of figures as well if you just want to make your own. And just to top it all off, you can place minifigures all around his body, allowing for the Fantastic Four to be displayed alongside him, in this case battling to save Reed from being ripped apart. Of course, this set had to include all 4 members of the team who share the same plain blue legs and torso print, with Reed simply losing the white collar printing that the other 3 have. He also has a new face print, both expressions being quite happy, which is a big contrast to Pedro Pascal's other face from The Mandalorian. He really needed that Doctor Strange hairpiece with the grey print though, it's literally perfect for him. The long brick pieces for his stretchy powers are cool though, as it means you can get the option of having him stretchy or just normal, which is something that the long arms just wouldn't allow for. Sue Storm gets clear discs and reuses Jyn Erso's face print, which I'm sure everyone is very familiar with by now, considering it's also been Black Widow's face for many years. To be honest though, I think the Stern face works good enough for her, but they could have used a better one. Johnny meanwhile shares his face with Scott Lang and Peter Parker, but it is nice to see a new colour for the Hawkeye CMF hairpiece. His flame powers are a bit basic though. I mean, just look at how much fuller and more powerful he looks when you use this small build that they gave Captain Marvel in 2019. As for Ben Grimm, those gorilla fists do look a bit ridiculous. They're just so oversized compared to his arms, and I think he looks so much better without them, though the white hands are inaccurate. I do like the head though, which, like Korg, uses a regular minifigure head with 2 face prints and then finishes it off with this rocky headpiece, giving him those big eyebrows. I think Reed and Sue definitely stand out as the better of the 4 minifigures, but none of these are terrible, although Johnny and Ben definitely did need white on their arms to set them apart from Sue. So $60 for all of this is asking a lot. Just to put that in perspective, last year's Green Goblin construction figure cost $35 and it had 471 pieces, giving you both Green Goblin and his iconic glider. For an extra $25, you're getting a lot less. If the team had dual molded legs, unique faces for Johnny and Sue, and the set included the much needed Silver Surfer minifigure, I think the price would be a little bit more reasonable. Setting that aside though, this is an easy 7.5 out of 10 set for me. What a fantastic build. And finally, saving the most anticipated for last, it's time for the first LEGO Spider-Man 2 set in over 20 years, the Spider-Man vs Doc Ock Subway Train scene, which captures what is easily one of the most iconic moments of the entire Raimi trilogy. With 393 pieces, this is a little bigger than the 2004 version, which results in a much bigger train carriage at the expense of losing a lot of all the other accessories the old one had. It's very long and very grey, with no shortage of opening windows lining the whole carriage, including two that have stickers to show they've been smashed in. The roof comes apart in two sections and the inside is lined with blue seating area for minifigures. It's not the most spacious place, but you can comfortably get 5 minifigures sat in the passenger area, with seats at the front and back for 2 more train drivers, giving space for 7 minifigures in total, which isn't too bad, and it does look pretty good when it's all filled up like this. At one end there's an intact control panel sticker, while at the opposite end of the train there's a damaged one, but other than some rubble on the roof, the front and back are exactly the same. Of course there's the train wheels which roll around super smoothly, and they even threw in 2 turntable pieces so you can replace these tan plates to allow the wheels to turn side to side a little bit, as well as plates with holes in them, so if you wanted to, you could buy multiple of the set and modify the wheel subassembly a tiny bit in order to connect multiple carriages together. Though at $110 for just 2 carriages, you're definitely better off just buying a regular LEGO City train set. Each side is dotted with open Technic axles, which will become important later on, as well as bars for characters to hang on to. The ends of the carriage finish the whole thing off rather well, I'd say. It's nothing special, but it does look about as good as it could for what it's trying to be, I think, and there are some exposed studs there for the main man himself. Yes, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is back again, and naturally he's similar to the 2023 minifigure from the big No Way Home set, but with an updated torso, adding in the scene-appropriate ripped suit. The best thing about this though is the extra head included, because instead of a boring, overused Han Solo face like the old one, this has a smiling face and then this. So we can ditch the mask, connect him to the front of the train, and attach these very long webs to his hands, each one with bricks connected, and yeah, that screaming face is just perfect for this. All this needed was this hairpiece instead. Of course you can plug those webs into the side of the carriage to display them a bit better, as well as this clear piece which holds one single brick. Aunt May joins Spidey in this one, reusing an existing grey cardigan design, but I think her 2 smiling faces are brand new. I could be wrong on that though. This one is a bit lazy. She really needed the brown coat and headscarf that they managed to make back in 2004, and if you're gonna put Aunt May in a set with Doc Ock, she really needs her umbrella. Meanwhile, good old J. Jonah Jameson clearly has the same tailor as Professor X, but his stern looking face is brand new, paired with a recolor of the Zane hair from Ninjago, which does sadly mean no second face, enraged at the masked menace causing chaos in this train, but it does make it easy to make an MCU version of the character. The torso isn't a terrible reuse. I mean, he did wear a blue suit in Spider-Man 2, but I think the existing waistcoat design would have been a better choice. Clearly Doc Ock took up a lot of the budget because he's the only one in this set with leg print, and I do quite like the overall design for his trench coat printing, better than the grey one that he had in 2023, though it does lose the print showing the arms on the back. The hairpiece is also an improvement though and goes well with that previous face design. But the 2023 minifigure has nothing on this new one when you add in the new limbs, because these are incredible. The build is a lot more complex, each segment can bend backwards and forwards and twist around, making them so much more dynamic than the simple ratchet joint arms of the old one, and the aeroblade pieces for the open claws work really well. They look great, with 2 of them getting clip pieces to attach to bars and the other 2 getting red studs which can grab hold of things like Spidey's mask. And not only that, if you take those off, you can fully support his weight with the arms, which, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, is something that I don't think any other Doc Ock minifigure could do. So yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say I think that this is the best Doc Ock that LEGO has ever made. You can really get some great poses with him and Spidey on this train, and overall this set is another easy 7 out of 10 for me. It does exactly what it needs to, but for the price is definitely lacking. A better Aunt May design plus a train driver I think would have made this worth the £45 in the UK, given that it is a 400 piece licensed set that did bless us with 1 leg print. Even with those, $50 would still be high for the US. Once again, this is a case of a good set that is bound to sell well, being priced high just for the sake of it. So there we are, 4 new Marvel sets with some really good stuff to be found in all of them. It's just a shame that for the high price there are still some really subpar builds and pretty questionable minifigure choices. But at least one thing's for sure, none of these are as bad as the $160 Star Wars Juggernaut. If you made it this far in the video and you liked what you saw, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe as that really does help, and thank you so much for watching.